It feels like you're jumping off a cliff. And I think there's a lot of moments in life that feel this way. Quitting a job, leaving college, starting a new job, choosing anything that's new in life, even a relationship. You are jumping off of a cliff and you're hoping your wings work. And I knew that they had worked other times when I'd made leaps like that before, but I needed to hope that it was going to do it that way as well. I'm still a private tutor. And so that was going to be, my clients seemed perfectly fine with me being remote, but I knew that they might not be okay with it the following year or the following year. So there was nervousness about how I was going to make money. And even though I had this business idea, is it going to work? So there's those fears. And then there's also culture shock. And even though I was in Barbados, and that doesn't really feel like a drastically different culture in some ways, that was difficult to deal with and to figure out. There were the ways that, am I going to make it in this other space? Am I going to make it not just financially, but personally, emotionally? How do I take care of me when I'm leaving my community? It was a little bit easier for me because I didn't have my close relationships that I had in Boston. I still knew where I was going to hold on to. So I wasn't really leaving that in the same way. But certainly for me, leaving Boston, which I'd been in for 10 years, was terrifying. It's just as terrifying, I think, as moving somewhere else. But knowing that there's a new home is being redefined as well is something you have to explore. I
agree. When I started my nomading journey, which was in Bali in early 2017, I remember it was sort of before I left, I was a little bit nervous. As I was leaving, I got a big spike of excitement. And then there's the spike of excitement when I was there. And then a few weeks in, probably a little bit different than your situation, but I was feeling a little bit lonely and it dipped. And then I met some people and it came back up. And it was kind of after maybe 3 weeks, a month where I felt like, okay, I have my bearings here. My feet are on the ground. I feel somewhat stabilized in this situation. I'm curious what your sort of roller coaster was after you started. Like, was there a certain time when you felt, okay, I feel a little bit settled, I feel stable, this feels much more normal than this big ambiguous concept that's hard to wrap my head around?
Yes. I think there was a moment where we were at the fish market with David, who's one of our friends.
Shout out to David.
We were all talking about business strategies and just different ideas and things like marketing ideas and different things like that. That for me was a moment where I was thinking it's going to be okay because I'm currently in a conversation that my soul feels right in being in, that this is me progressing and I'm around people who I want to be in my life. And not that there's people who I don't want to be in my life that are in Boston, but it felt like this is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. So all this shit that I'm afraid of, this feels right. And that was when I knew it was going to kind of be okay.
Yeah. And that around the right people topic is something that you and I discuss a lot in our everyday lives. And it's something that I feel like we've both been reflecting on before being here in Italy, we were back in Boston for a couple months. And I think, one of my big things from nomading for a while is just now going back to where I'm from and feeling really disconnected. Feeling like, okay, I'm optimizing my life around freedom, around being really happy, around having lots of flexibility, around doing things that I love. And not a very high percentage of people in these environments share these optimization philosophies. I'm curious for you, how you would describe going back to a place that you lived for almost a decade. You're traveling for a year, you go back. How does that feel?
A little bit trippy. Also because when I left, I was in one mindset and my view on the world has drastically shifted just in that 1 year. So I think the things that I was questioning, the things that I was wondering, things I was afraid of, feel like that was Lori 5 years ago and it was only Lori a year ago. That for me was surprising. I think when I was in Boston, I really wanted to fit into Boston. I wanted to fit into this. For me, it's also that academic world and the idea of being in. And I kind of was, I kind of wasn't. So most of my friends, I think that I consider close friends, do think about optimizing their life for happiness and for making a positive impact on the world. But it was this energy where I was realizing there were things that I used to look at and feel like I wanted that for myself, or I wanted to be able to do these things. And I've since realized that I'm not really glamored by it anymore. One thing in particular is maybe like eating at the best restaurants or hanging out in this area, being accepted into this circle. Doesn't really seem as exciting to me anymore, because I would much rather be on the beach in Barbados anywhere else in Boston. Yes, it's changed these goals around for me.
Yeah, I really identify with what you're saying, especially around the conformity piece. And once you break out of a community, it gives you the space to reevaluate, what do I really want? And what did I think that I wanted just because I was around lots of other people who wanted this stuff? And you can you get the opportunity to break out of that sort of conformity cycle, which we all I try to pride myself on being kind of a non-conformist, but we all fall into the trap of being influenced by the people around us and absorbing their energy and their interests. And I think that point that you mentioned is so powerful. And one of the things I love so much about this lifestyle.
I think I hear you talk a lot about how people are worried about being lonely. And I think I've come to connect to myself in such a deeper way that I'm more okay with being alone and being more selective about who gets to join my circle than just trying to interact with people for the sake of not being alone.